Something breaks. Not in a dramatic way that movies teach us to expect. No shattering glass, no thunder, no obvious villain. Something breaks the way most things actually break. Slowly, then all at once. A relationship frays. A trust is violated. A community divides. A word is spoken that cannot be unspoken. And the space between two people, a space that was once filled with warmth and recognition, goes cold. And then comes the moment that defines everything that follows. Not the breaking itself, that was already happening, but the moment after. The moment when you stand in the rubble and face a choice that no one can make for you. Do I walk away, or do I pick up the pieces? Some of you may have heard that in Japan, there is an art form called kintsugi. When a bowl or a cup breaks, the artisan does not discard it. They do not pretend it was never broken. They do not try to make the cracks invisible. Instead, they take lacquer, touched with gold, sometimes actually powdered gold, silver, or platinum, and trace the cracks with it. The repair becomes part of the beauty. The vessel is more luminous for having been broken and mended. This is not a metaphor dressed up as wisdom. This is a practice, a discipline of attention and care that says the history of this object includes its breaking. And that history is not something to hide. It is something to honor. I want to talk this morning about what it would mean to live that way. Not as individuals performing self-improvement, but as a community that practices the art of repair. The deliberate, courageous, sometimes excruciating work of going back to the place where the damage occurred and doing something about it. Because I believe that repair is the most elegant expression of our values and our covenants. And I believe that without the gold thread of repair, we are left with something worse than conflict. We are left with distance, with silence, with the slow erosion of the circles of trust that make community possible at all. What must we practice before beauty can return? Let me say what I think repair is not, before I say what it is. Repair is not apology, a verbal act we can perform without meaning it. It's not forgiveness. That is interior on someone else's timeline and cannot be demanded. And it is not resolution, which closes the book. Repair opens a new chapter. So what does repair actually require? It requires first that we stay, that you are present to the damage rather than fleeing from it, that you resist the powerful gravitational pull of avoidance, the pull that says it would be easier to let this go, to move on, to find new friends, to leave this community and start fresh somewhere else. Repair begins with the radical act of staying when everything in you wants to run. Sometimes, of course, safety requires distance, full stop. Repair is never a command to remain where harm continues. But when safety is possible or restored, repair begins with the radical act of staying present to what happened. It requires that you ask permission. Repair cannot be imposed. You cannot repair a relationship unilaterally, even if one person caused the harm. No, has to be safe to say, or the yes means nothing. It requires honesty that makes room for someone else's experience of the same events. It requires waiting at the pace of the injured, not the pace of the one who caused the injury. It requires stepping into uncertainty without guarantee. And it requires that you feel it in your body, the tightness in your chest, when you think about the person you hurt, the heat in your face when you remember what you said, the hollow in your stomach when you imagine they might not come back. Repair that stays only in the intellect is negotiation. Repair that reaches the body is transformation. And it requires that you become someone different. Not someone new, someone truer. You have returned to the same ground, but you are not the same person walking it. That is the difference between going in circles and spiraling forward. But how do we know whether we have really changed? The Jewish tradition has a word for this, teshuvah. It is often translated as repentance, but that translation misses the heart of it. Teshuvah means return. Not guilt, not punishment, but return. Maimonides, the great 12th century rabbi, taught that teshuvah is not complete until you face the same situation that caused the original harm and choose differently. The test is not whether you feel sorry. The test is whether you have changed enough that when the moment comes again, as it always does, you do not do what you did before. The proof of repair is not your words. It is your next action. And life will give you the chance to prove it. Because life is generous that way, isn't it? It brings us back to the same ground, the same tensions, the same tests, again and again, until we learn what they have to teach us. The question is not, why am I here again? The question is, who am I now that I'm here again? What can I do this time that I could not do before? That is the invitation of return. That is the gold in the break. Archbishop Desmond Tutu spent his life teaching a concept from Southern African philosophy that he called Ubuntu. In its essence, it is this: I am because we are. My humanity is not something I possess individually. It's something that exists between us. When I diminish you, I diminish myself. But it goes so much deeper than that. Follow me down. So repair is not a favor I do for the person I harmed. It is the restoration of my own humanity. When I refuse to repair, I am not just abandoning the relationship. I am abandoning myself. I'm choosing to live in a smaller world with fewer connections, less trust, and a narrower circle of people I can look in the eye. We talked about the cost of repairing, the vulnerability, the humiliation, the risk of rejection, but we rarely talk about what happens when we choose not to. What happens is that the world gets smaller. One unrepaired relationship at a time, the circle contracts. The accumulation is devastating. You wake up one morning with a life that is technically comfortable, but profoundly lonely. You have protected yourself out of community. But here is the inverse, and it is the most hopeful thing I know. When you repair, you do not just restore what was lost, you create something that was not there before. A trust that has been tested and survived is stronger than a trust that was never challenged before. A community that has looked at its brokenness and chosen to mend with gold, with attention, with trembling hands, is more real than a community that has never known rupture, betrayal, or heartbreak. Repair is the only action that makes the circle larger instead of smaller. But why does repair make us stronger? Why can't we just shake hands and move on? Live and let live, right? Acknowledgement of repair is just narration. It describes the wound without closing it. We have all known people, perhaps we have been those people, who can articulate with extraordinary precision exactly what they do or someone else has done wrong, and yet nothing changes. The self-awareness is impeccable. The behavior continues. That is acknowledgement without repair. And it is tragic and exhausting for everyone in its orbit. Repair is what happens when acknowledgement finally grows legs. When the person who says, "I know I did this," takes the terrifying step and says, "And here is what I'm doing differently." That is the doorway to becoming. And here I want to offer a second metaphor, not to replace the gold in the cracks, but to deepen it. Kintsugi is beautiful. It is also a metaphor about objects. A bowl does not grow. It does not learn. It does not wake up the next morning and face the same table, the same hands, the same risk of falling. The gold honors the history of the breaking. But we are not bowls. We are bone. There is a principle in biology called Wolff's Law. It says that living bone remodels itself in response to the forces placed upon it. When bone is stressed progressively within its capacity to recover, it does not simply heal, it restructures. The body lays down new architecture where reinforcement is needed. The bone can become denser, thicker, and better adapted to what life is asking of it. This is not what happens when bone is shattered. Contrary to popular belief, broken bones don't mend stronger. That is a myth. Traumatic damage does not strengthen. Adaptive stress says, this is challenging but recoverable. Traumatic damage says, this exceeded what I could hold. If you've ever watched a kickboxer condition his shin, striking a heavy bag or padded post, gradually and over months, You're not watching someone break themselves into strength. You're watching someone expose living tissue to recoverable challenge again and again, with rest in between, until the body learns where it needs to become more than it was. That is teshuvah in the body, returning different. Both Maimonides and Wolff's Law refuse the dramatic single event of breaking. Both require return. Both require that the pace of remodeling belongs to the system doing the healing, not the force doing the loading. Not every break strengthens. Some breaks just break. What makes the difference is whether the system is alive, whether it is given time, and whether the stress it faces is progressive rather than catastrophic. The bull cannot ask for this, but you can. You are living tissue. You are adaptive. And alive things remodel. You can grow toward the load. But how? What does our remodeled structure look like? Sophia Lyon-Faz, one of our great Unitarian educators, wrote that it matters what we believe. I would add, it matters even more what we do with what we believe. If we believe in the worth and dignity of every person, then repair is not optional. It is the practice that makes the belief real. Without it, our principles are poetry, beautiful and inert. With it, they become love architecture. They become the structure of a community that can hold difference, whether conflict, and come out the other side intact. No, that is the wrong word. Transformed, broken and mended, cracked and gold-filled, stressed and remodeled, more luminous for having done the hard work of staying. Kintsugi teaches us that the break can be honored. Teshuvah teaches us that return must become action. Bone teaches us that living systems can remodel. Together, they tell us this: repair is not going backward. Repair is how an alive, beloved community becomes more capable of love. So where is that place within you? Where is the crack that is not asking to be hidden, but held? Somewhere in your life there is a break that is not yet mended. A conversation you have been avoiding. A relationship you have let go quiet. A person within this community you have stopped seeing clearly. You know what it is. You have known for a while. And I'm not going to tell you to fix it today. Repair has its own timing, and that timing must be honored. What I am going to tell you is this: the break is not the end of the story. It is one chapter, and the next chapter is yours to write. Not restoration of what was, but the creation of what is becoming. The gold is waiting. Repeat after me: the crack is where it goes. We do not climb. Repeat after me. We spiral. We return. We become. May the places of the breaking be met with blessing. May our gold be generous and our hands be brave. May your repair be the doorway to your becoming. Together with me, Amen. May it be so, and blessed be.